Oh my goodness. Do you know how many takes it's taken me to get this right? Well, hopefully this is the last one. Good morning, North Point. We are so thankful that you chose to worship with us today. Whether you are sitting on your couch in your PJs, whether you're at a kid's baseball game, hey, you may even choose to watch this tomorrow. Whatever your medium, we are so glad that you're here with us today. If you are a North Point newbie, don't know what that is, you can look up here, you can go to our website and any of our social media accounts, and you can learn what a North Point newbie is. We want to meet you, we want to know about you, and we want to connect with you. And make that personal connection. So check us out. We would really love to meet you. And speaking of that, this week I was reading on fellowship in the Bible. Now fellowship, it's a really cool thing. You meet with a big group of people, small group of people. You communicate with each other. You share stories. You share in people's success and sometimes even their failures. You lift each other up in times of struggle. There's, you can pray for people in the good times and in the bad times. Fellowship is extremely important in your walk with God. God did not design for us to be alone or to go at this alone. He wanted us to communicate and to connect with other people on that level. And in Hebrews, it says, "And let us consider in order to stir up love and good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as is the manner of some, but encouraging one another," right? Encouraging one another. That could mean in the good times, in the bad times, celebrating successes and being there for people, when they may not feel successful, or they're struggling, or they're sick, or whatever it is. That personal connection is extremely important. So I have a question for you today. How are you connecting with people? How are you connecting with God? Are you doing that, in person, virtually? And honestly, it really doesn't matter whatever your choice is on how you choose to communicate, but are you doing it? It's good for you. It's good for the other people. And it's really funny when you fellowship, or when you, share those things with people. You start to see God in everything. You start to see God in people. You start to see, the beauty in the words of the Bible. I mean, I can't even tell you. And honestly, if you could zoom in, I've got goosebumps talking about this right now. But fellowship is extremely important. So, as you go through this week, try and find ways to connect with people. Again, it could be virtual, over text message, over social media platforms, a phone call. It could be over Twitter. Hey, you could even, get your pen and paper out, and you could write a letter, and go the old snail mail route. Send a letter of encouragement or card of encouragement, whatever the medium is. How are you connecting with people this week? And speaking of connection, every Sunday, we as a church family, we share in communion. Now for me this week, it's going to be a cup of coffee in my little, oats and honey bar here. But for you, it could be, I don't know, Chips Ahoy and a glass of milk. It could be a spaghetti taco and some red wine. It could be, star fruit and water. It really doesn't matter. But we want you to make sure that you have those things prepared, because we do share communion together as a church family each Sunday.
So, have you ever tried to establish your own credibility or prove your value to a team or to the organization you work for? Have you ever had your position of worth called into question by people above you or below you, or even those that you were equal with? It's just a shattering thing to have happen. The second letter of Corinthians, the second letter that the Apostle Paul wrote to the church there, he wrote it in his own defense. His credibility as an apostle had been questioned. It was being challenged. Truth of the matter, Paul was not an original apostle. He came in after the fact. He was actually a pretty unusual choice to be an apostle. He spent his early life as a persecutor of those who were following Jesus. Not exactly a prime candidate for apostleship, I imagine. But honestly, his credentials were over the top. His story is a dramatic one. His conversion is nothing short of remarkable. And in 2 Corinthians, he tells about that. Lists off all of the things that he's done, all the ways that he could or should be worthy of the early church looking at him as an apostle. But in this letter, he writes something else. It's peculiar. It's strange. He writes about, just after he had listed off all of his credentials, he talks about his struggle. He talks about his weaknesses. He writes this crazy insight into his own humanity, into his own normalness. In chapter 12, verses 7 and 8, look at these words. This is what he writes. Therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. He writes, in order to keep him humble, keep his pride and self-sufficiency in check, he was given what he calls a thorn in the flesh. The word itself, the word thorn, it really doesn't adequately define the word, I don't think. The word actually means a sharp stake or a large splinter. Have you ever had a thorn? Have you ever had even a tiny splinter in your finger? Oh my goodness, everything hurts. Something almost microscopic in your finger or in the bottom of your foot can bring you to your knees. That's how bad the pain can be, and certainly how annoying it is, because it just takes over your life. Paul calls this thorn, this thing that he has, a messenger of Satan, permitted by God. Actually makes me think a lot about Job, the character in the Old Testament. Now, I'm not exactly sure what you believe about the devil, what you believe about Satan. I think that the word thorn is certainly a metaphor for something else. What was this thorn? Actually, nobody knows. Paul never comes right out and says what it is. Most theologians believe that it was something physical, that maybe he had poor eyesight, or that he had a form of epilepsy. There's some reason to believe that that could be true. No matter what it was, it seems to be a secret that people really didn't know much about, but he did. But whatever it was, to Paul, the purpose was clearly to torment him. Now, I don't have all the explanations, but according to the Bible, I know the devil does things to break us, to turn us, to limit us. And we plead with God for relief from whatever that is. We plead with God for change, or to stop the pain, or to remove the struggle, or to make everything the way it used to be. And like Paul, sometimes, even often, it doesn't happen. And coming to grips with God not answering our prayers, at least not answering them the way that we want him to answer them, it is a shocking reality for most anybody. Whether it be a terminal illness that results in death, or just a constant annoyance, a thorn in our side that just persistently tears away at our strength and our focus. But the amazing thing is that God uses the very things that he allows Satan to torment us with. God uses them to strengthen us. That's why Paul continues in his writing with these words. It's just the next couple of verses in this letter. He writes in verse 9, chapter 12, verse 9, "But the Lord said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me." And then he follows up and says, that is why for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. What a crazy thing to say. What are thorns? I think thorns are these really bad things that God somehow does not stop. He doesn't stand in the way of them happening to us. Paul writes that thorns are sometimes weaknesses, frailties and sickness and bad health and inabilities and limitations that we have in our lives. He writes that they could be insults, those painful attacks on our character that just come again and again and again, where our integrity is called into question, or our personhood is devalued, our capabilities are called into question. I remember when I was just a young guy starting out in ministry, and the kids in my youth group used to make fun of my voice. I have, and you can tell even as you listen to this, I have kind of a nasal sound in my voice. And they used to walk around just incessantly holding their nose and acting like they were talking like me. And I laughed and joked and played around with them. But inside, it was debilitating to me. It hindered my growth as a public speaker, because I was so self-conscious for years in my life about my voice. Paul writes that thorns could be hardships, those distresses in our life, or bad situations, or unfair things, or injustice, or just situations that are crushing to us. He says that thorns could be persecution, whether it be physical or emotional, those things that attack our faith and undermine our confidence in the Word of God, creating doubt in our lives. Finally, he says that thorns could just be difficulties, and that word, what it means is calamities, extreme affliction, near-death experiences, effects, and then really the effects of death and overwhelming loss in our life that just paralyzes us. Look, I just listed off 5 different things that Paul, I think, describes as potential thorns in our flesh, thorns in our side. We've all experienced those. Now, I'll tell you, my own personal weaknesses remind me that God's grace is sufficient. That what God is doing in my life at any point in time is enough. His grace is enough for me. Doesn't feel like it all the times, but the truth is, His grace is always sufficient. What does that mean to me personally? Why does God permit bad things to happen? It's the question of the universe. Why doesn't He use His power to remove those things from my life? I'll tell you, here are 4 or 5 lessons that I've learned as I've lived through over the course of my life, things that I wish God would have intervened on and changed, because that's what I wanted. The first and biggest thing that I've learned in my lifetime about this is that those bad things that happen to me clearly teach me again and again that I am not God. Sometimes I just can't fix things in my own life. I can't heal myself. I'm like anybody else. I want to retaliate when I'm insulted. Hardships, gosh, I've spent my life taking my own hardships into my own hands. When I have been persecuted in my life, you know what my go-to is? My go-to is to run, to shrink back. When I face difficulties, my first response is to consider giving up. I'm human. It's what I do. And in those moments, I am reminded boldly that I am not God. I am not God. I can't fix my own messes. And because I am not God, I am also not the center of my own universe. And knowing that I'm not the center of the universe and everything doesn't revolve around me and what I want for me, that is where humility begins for me every day. The world doesn't revolve around me. When I face difficulties in my life that I can't fix, and that God doesn't somehow supernaturally intervene on and give me what I want, I am reminded that I can manufacture strength out of just my history or my experience. I can manufacture it, but it is going to be both limited and it's going to be deceptive. We can all get strong by hard work and discipline, but hard work and discipline cannot heal a broken heart. No way. I always think that I can do it alone. My pain reminds me that I can't. I'm reminded that life will not be easy. Life will not be fair. And as I walk through valleys and I walk through the shadows of death that are cast in my life, I am reminded that maybe one of the greatest, if not the greatest lesson that I can ever teach to my children or to anybody else is that life won't be fair. And get used to it. God's intention is not and never has been my happiness. His intention is that I become more like Jesus. And as I become more like Jesus, I'm able to face the things that life throws at me. And I guess most of all, when all is said and done and the dust settles, and I go through the difficulties in my life as I have for 60 plus years, I realize that my own struggles have widened my vision to see God's greater issues. It's as if God uses the difficulties of my life to peel back my eyelids so that I can clearly see a bigger picture of what's going on, what God is really doing. And I am so grateful for that. Strength is such a treasured value. We tell each other, we tell our kids, be strong, be tough, don't give in, be courageous. And just like he always does, God turns things upside down. I want us to think about communion today from this angle. A few years ago, when the world-famous cyclist Lance Armstrong was battling cancer, you might remember this, his foundation popularized the word live strong. Live strong. It's kind of a play on Armstrong. And you could buy a wristband that helped you focus your attention on fighting the battle, whether it was your own or the battle of cancer that a loved one was facing. It was a big deal. And people everywhere were wearing these little yellow bracelets that said live strong. Nowadays, it seems like almost every cause, every movement is characterized by tagging the word strong at the end of it. Louisville strong, DAC strong, NFL strong, Army strong. Yeah, everything is something strong. But I think if I were to start a movement or hype some cause as a follower of Jesus, I know I would choose a completely different word, like the opposite word. How about this one? Live weak. Live weak. In my weaknesses, God is made strong. As we come to the Lord's Supper today, through the bread and the juice, we remember that the crucifixion of Jesus, this most heinous, awful, human torture, the crucifixion of Jesus was absolute craziness to his world. Crucifixion was the ultimate sign of weakness. The Romans and the Jews both said that no true king, no true Messiah would ever let himself get killed on a cross. It's a sign of weakness. But we know from that example, only in weakness can God's power be truly evident in its fullness. Only in my need, only in my weakness, I fully know God's grace. What a gift. When I am weak, I can experience true strength. Strength not of my own, but one that grows within me through my weakness and empowers me to face the unimaginable. And then when I face the unimaginable, I can embrace the impossible, because with God, everything is possible. Let's remember that as we share communion today. that is it for today. I'm really glad you joined us. Wherever you are at, wherever you came from, the fact that you ended up right here, we are so grateful for that. It means everything to us here at North Point that you continue to be here with us. We hope that your experience here today was good for your heart. I want to remind you that Easter is right around the corner. And if you live anywhere near us here, I want to encourage you. Maybe now is the time to come back and join us. It's been a year now since we had to turn everything upside down and begin doing things differently. And we have been meeting here in person now for since July, and we're starting to figure some things out, and things are starting to feel more like North Point, more like who we are. And if you haven't been back, we would sure love to have you join us. And I can't think of a better day to do that on than on Easter Sunday. So just remember that we meet at 9 o'clock and at 10:15. We have 2 services. We're going to continue to do that. Come and pick one of those. There is room for people to sit and spaced out in the room. The singing is fantastic. Hearing the band in person, I know for many of you, is something you haven't heard in a year. And as good as those videos are, coming and singing together with the body of Christ is such an encouragement. We would love to have you come and join us. As you go this week, live with courage, live with determination. I challenge you to see your weaknesses and your obstacles and your hardships and the insults and everything that you are going through that have poured fear and anxiety on your life. I challenge you to see those weaknesses as your strength. Let God's grace, let the presence of Jesus Christ be enough. Be enough for you. Let it be more than enough for you in everything that you do, in everything that you say, in everywhere that you go. So until next time, see ya.